Now, this episode was actually a load of fun, as we're introduced to a brand new character who is arriving in Paris for the first time, and on a tour just so happens to see Marinette's family's bakery, and wants to go in for a quick snack, and she literally runs into Marinette. As per usual. This is Zoe, and Marinette and her actually kind of hit it off for the most part and become very fast friends, with Marinette even really digging her shoes. They are pretty dang cute, with a little message from one of the few friends she says she actually has. And Marinette decides to be her friend, even going so far as to invite her to the barge of the Coffin family for a little performance by Kitty selection. So, that's good old Marinette, making fast friends here and there. But we come to find out that this is actually the daughter of Audrey Bourgeois, meaning it's Chloe's sister. Now, it's been revealed behind the scenes that this is actually Chloe's half-sister, which raises a lot of questions, as for the most part it's projected that this is Audrey's daughter, but that she is also Andre's stepdaughter, which is usually not how that goes, especially considering how close in age Chloe and Zoe appear to be. Not to mention, Audrey and Andre have been together for 20 years, which would mean that at some point Audrey actually cheated on Andre at some point during their marriage, and actually managed to, not long after either having Chloe or Zoe, given what I've looked into, she could have gotten pregnant with a little bit within the span of a month after giving birth. And as long as everything turned out right with the birth and pregnancy, could have given birth to the second daughter within the same year. So it is entirely possible that they could be around the same age, just about at most 6-7 months apart, which is just kind of surreal to think about, because it's just like, oh wow, that's that was a hell of a breakup that Audrey and Andre had. I had to look into this because I had so many questions about the nature of this, relationship of this other bourgeois. Well, her last name is Lee, that we've never heard of. And that's why it's pretty obvious that she's the result of Audrey stepping out, because she would have had the last name Bourgeois otherwise, or at least you would think so, but who knows. I'm just going with what I've been given. There's a whole can of worms behind this, and the fact that it's treated so casually too, but this one is a bit much for me for the most part. And we actually get to see that Zoe, despite her kinder nature, portrays herself as a mean girl, just kind of to try to stand up to the expectations of her mother as well as her sister. And the way that Chloe interacts with Zoe, Chloe. I really thought she was developing as a character, but apparently one of the people who work on the show said, no, it was only ever just for the fame and recognition, which is really disappointing. But, I mean, Chloe's such a major source of akuma over the course of this series. They couldn't possibly have her change, because you end up losing, like, half the reason people become akumatized. But with the magical charms, I mean, you also have that as well. But, Chloe starts to project what she feels how Zoe should be, and especially takes offense to Zoe's shoes, showing off these diamond encrusted shoes that Zoe should be striving to be able to wear one day. She even shows off how to boss around her father, how she has Sabrina do all of her homework in a friggin' wardrobe in the dark, and has Sabrina just run after the limo with all of the bags and stuff, which is just unnecessarily cruel. Like, I was actually forgetting how much of a terrible person they make Chloe out to be, because she just hasn't been around in this season for a few episodes. But having her here now, just like, all those past feelings of just hating Chloe just came bubbling to the surface, and I'm just like, the series was like so much better without you in it. And so Chloe introduces Zoe to the entire school, basically, with Marinette's friends being shocked that Chloe has a sister, like, just purely shocked. I love the way Rose reacts to it, like, Chloe has a sister? What? But Marinette says that she's a lot nicer than Chloe. They met earlier. She knows Zoe. She feels like she knows Zoe, at least. And so she goes up to greet Zoe. And Chloe tries to pop off on Zoe about knowing Marinette, but Zoe plays the mean girl shtick, says, oh, some dumb girl who ran into me and gifted me macaroons as an apology, disgusting, and this, that, and the other. It breaks Marinette's heart, if only just a little. But it's obvious it also breaks Zoe's heart, and I feel for her, and she really just has to keep playing the mean girl, especially with the principal, to get into one of the classes. And this is one of the things that makes me know that they have to be around the same age, because you have Mark and Aurora both in the same class, and I'm fairly certain they are the exact same age as Chloe and Marinette. It really is hard to tell some of the ages, but it's Miss Mendeleev's class, and she teaches the same grade, so I'm fairly certain. It really is hard to tell. I need somebody to, like, research this, or just release, like, what's the relation between Chloe and Zoe? Which parent did she come from? I need details. It's boggling my mind a little too much. But when Marinette talks with her friends about the situation with Zoe, I love how Alia interprets it, that it was just because she spent a few hours with Chloe that she's completely turned evil. And honestly, she's not wrong for the most part. It's literally just because she's been with Chloe that she's turned out this way. But whereas Marinette feels disparaged by all of this, Chloe is overjoyed. I also love the conversation between Marinette and her friends, where they're just like, no, we'll adopt her. Get her away from Chloe. Chloe's too bad of an influence on her. And it's just like, yeah, no, you're completely right about all of this. As Marinette continues to try to extend the olive branch, texting Zoe about how she feels that Zoe wasn't being her true self, and Zoe says that once they meet at the barge and all that she'll explain everything that's going on, but Chloe sees that she's messaging Dupang Chang, the affliction that Chloe has, and starts to try to lay into Zoe. But Zoe plays it off like she was just going to perform a trick when she gets to the barge, and throw all of Marinette's macaroons into the water in order to humiliate her. And Chloe eats it up, even going so far as to gift Zoe with their diamond encrusted heels, and starts to plot like all the things that Zoe could do to Marinette, including putting roaches in her locker. And this is where we have to bring up the issue that Zoe had. She only really came to America, well, from America to France, because of the fact that she was being bullied over in New York. She had actually played the part of a mean girl before and got tired of it. And when she tried to just step away from all of that, she ended up being the target of the bullying and ended up with roaches in her locker, which is all brought up later on, but I'm just bringing it up now because it's like that moment, knowing that when you see that moment, she realizes that she's just living everything she tried to escape from all over again. And she knows how this plays out, that if she goes against this, she'll just be the targeting of all of Chloe's bullying. So she has no choice but to accept this, and she breaks down. And I love this moment where Andre comes up and tries to talk to Zoe about the situation that she's in, and he reveals something that I think we've only ever heard of once, but it was never really clear that at one point Andre wanted to be a movie director. He wanted to make films and all of this. But in order to do a lot of the things that he ultimately wanted, he went into politics and all that and kind of had to give up on his dreams in order to make a better future for his wife, his family, all that good stuff. And that kind of hit a little hard. It got like really real here. And, he asks Zoe about what her dreams are, and Zoe says that she wanted to be an actress, but with everything that she's been going through, she finds herself acting no matter what, acting as someone who she isn't, and she just wants to be herself, if nothing else. And so Andre shows her where he kind of buried his dreams, and we come to find out that yes, a while back we had seen that Adrian's mother was in a film called Solitude by A. Bourgeois. And come to find out, Andre Bourgeois directed the film that Adrian's mother was in. And I love that little bit of lore building because it really does give a special connection and a lot of the reasoning behind that special connection that Chloe has with Adrian and why their families would hang out so much in the past because they were working on his movie. It's such a sweet little bit of lore, but he buried away all of his dreams and hides his wants from his family because he feels that he can't be his true honest self. And, Zoe comes to the realization that she's much of in the same boat and decides to bury her shoes as well, that creative side of herself. And of course, that leaves her prone to Shadow Moth, and as she solemnly puts on the heels and just feels terrible about it all, the Akuma possesses her other shoes, and thus she becomes Soul Crusher, with the power to grow bigger with every person she crushes under her heel. And I love how Andre is there to see it all go down as she transforms and starts to just kick and trample on people, growing bigger and bigger with each bit of energy, and especially goes after Chloe, who does her best to try to escape, even going so far as to run into Marinette's family bakery, pushing her family in the way too. She goes up to Marinette's room, tries to blockade, but boom, in comes Soul Crusher, and Chloe, being the absolute worst, pushes Marinette into harm's way. Like, jeez, this girl is irredeemably bad. And so Marinette is captured by Soul Crusher, but Soul Crusher isn't after Marinette, she's after Chloe. So she just runs after Chloe holding Marinette in her hands. And so Tiki kind of has to come up with a bit of a plan, telling Clack to go get Plague and Cat Noir, tell him that the Guardian's a little indisposed and he'll need to try to deal with this monster himself for the most part. So despite the risks, Clag ports on over and a lot of Adrian's stuff goes flying into the portal, including Plag's cheese. But Clacky tells Adrian what's going on, he transforms and heads out, and somewhere out in space there's some cheese in a globe, and somewhere out in the wilds of possibly Africa some gorillas got themselves a free foosball table. So Chloe makes her way all the way to the Kofane barge where Kitty Selection is about to perform. And Chloe starts to lay into Soul Crusher, saying that if she wants to be her true sister, because Chloe knows that it's Zoe because of the brief interactions that they've had, if she wants to be her true sister, though, she should be going after those losers, crushing them underfoot, and threatens to send Zoe back to New York, that she's nothing without her, and this and that she could only be an imitation of her. That's why she took on that appearance. It's really, really demoralizing. To have such a large being seem so small in the face of Chloe. But Marinette's just like, no, you don't have to be terrible to other people in order to get by. That's not how it should be, and that's not how it is. You don't have to be this person in order to get by. And I love this moment where, Soul Crusher is really taking in Marinette's words. And even when Cat Noir shows up, Marinette isn't done talking to Soul Crusher and says that she should just be herself, that there are people here who will accept her, who will appreciate her for who she is, that living a life that is a lie just does more harm to you than anything else. And Hawkmoth is just like, yep, I feel you wavering. No, no, no. I've given you the power to crush all your enemies. Go on with that. So Soul Crusher, she continues her pursuit of Chloe, but gets tripped up by Cat Noir, releasing Marinette so that she can transform into the Miraculous Ladybug. And so the dynamic duo team up against essentially a boss fight, honestly. Just put in some health bars and there you go. And of course, Chloe is hiding from the situation, but I can't blame her, as Soul Crusher is tearing up Paris. And it gets so bad to the point where Cat Noir is just ready to cataclysm her right there and then. But Ladybug's just like, yeah, we've seen how that goes down a few times with a few different people. It could be, could end up in a case of dead. Let's go for her shoes. I think that might be the case. Well, she mostly says that after she brings out the Lucky Charm, which is a shoehorn, and it's just like, oh, it must be in the shoes. So Cat Noir cataclysms her shoe, and Ladybug takes out the other one with her yo-yo, but no Akuma comes out, and they're just like, what do? But then Chloe, of course, starts yelling about the destruction of her shoes, and it's just like, you destroyed my shoes, of course you did. And you only ever deserved those grimy little shoes that you had before, and blah blah blah. And thankfully Soul Crusher shuts her right up. Oh man, if only it didn't just turn Chloe into energy and you just went splat, just done with her. Would have been so thankful at this point, because this woman has no self-preservation. Don't stop and taunt or yell. Run, you dummy! But that gives Ladybug and Cat Noir a little bit of a clue as to what they need to do, so they head to Chloe's place to try and find the shoes. But they can't seem to find it anywhere, with Sabrina especially being no help because she's been in a closet all day. But they end up running into Andre, who knows where the shoes might be, and they head up to the roof, only for Soul Crusher, who has become stupid big, is also there ready to crush them solely. And so Ladybug has to use the shoehorn to pry open the little hatch where the shoes are hidden, right as Soul Crusher is going for a meteor punch. Like, seriously, this thing has some heft behind it. But boom, Ladybug gets the shoes, breaks them open, which should not be that easy, but I guess she has a little bit of that super strength with all the things that they crush. They free the Akuma and de-evilize it, and boom, everything is back to normal. And of course, Zoe also gets her own magical charm, which I'm only just realizing now each of them have a different design for each person, diamond encrusted, as a bit of a memento for everything that Zoe has been through over the course of the day. And honestly, what she's kind of overcome, if nothing else. And so Zoe arrives at the Kofane barge with the macaroons and meets up with Marinette, and of course Chloe is overseeing it with her terrible mother in order to just see the disgrace of Zoe throwing the macaroons into the river. But as Marinette introduces Zoe, Zoe admits that everything that had gone on at school that day was all a result of her trying to fit in with her family. She recounts everything that she went through at school, from trying to fit in to trying to be herself only to be punished for it, to moving all the way from America to Paris only to have it all happen again with her family and being reluctant to be herself and this and that. And it's a very somber moment. But, they show that they're true friends. Because ultimately, real people aren't terrible. Not all people are terrible. Some people are willing to just accept you for who you are. And I love how obviously poignant this is to Adrian in this situation, because he knows what Zoe was going through. He understands that more than most people. And, of course, Chloe, she is absolutely infuriated by all of this. And once Zoe arrives home later that day, she demands back the shoes, as well as to have Zoe sent back to New York, of all places. But Andre, actually stepping to the plate for the most part, just suggests that, that'll be a lot of effort and work and paperwork and this and that. Too much going on. Why don't I just put her in, somewhere else in the hotel? One of the smaller suites that's the size of only half a house. And she'll use the service elevator. You'll never have to deal with her again. And Chloe is all too happy for that. And it's probably for the best for Zoe as well. As Zoe and Andre have a little bit of a heart-to-heart where she thanks him, if nothing else, and asks that he doesn't put his dreams on hold for too long, which he agrees to. And I love this. I love this relationship here, because Chloe and Audrey are just the most of toxic people, and Andre, he has a bit of a better heart in him when given the proper influence, and that proper influence is Zoe. He can become a better person with Zoe in his life, and I'm glad that he has this positive relationship. And so later that night, Marinette is texted by Zoe, who thanks Marinette for, introducing her to her friends, because of that she was actually able to meet good people, showing that her being a nice person actually did have some form of payoff. And she was quickly accepted into the group, properly shown around the school, got all these different people to actually sign her shoes, to whereas she only had one message before, now she has a whole bunch of them, even getting a little bit of a dye job from Julika, which actually looks pretty nice on her. And thus with that, Zoe has been given a new lease on life, and there's a dark cloud over Chloe, but what else is new? Look forward to seeing her akumatized in the next episode, more than likely, because she's just a terrible person. It's so sad. I really was hoping, just hoping and pleading, that Chloe would be better in seasons 2 and 3. She had so much potential to be better, because we already had a antagonistic force in Lila, and I thought she was going to take over the role of being the kind of big bad of the situation, but Lila has really kind of just disappeared from the series for the most part. It's kind of surreal. So I'm really wondering what's going on here. We just reverted to having Chloe just be the bad person again. I was really hoping we were gonna step away from that, but now we just decided to replace her with a nicer bourgeois. Just get Chloe out of here, more Zoe, more positive things. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. What do you think about Zoe and her situation? Did you enjoy the relationship between her and Andre and how they can both be a positive force in their lives? Or were you not feeling her character? And what did you think about Chloe in this episode? Did you feel she was peak Chloe? Did you enjoy that? Did you hate it? Would you have liked her to continue what seemed to be an upward arc before? Or do you feel that Chloe isn't Chloe unless she's being mean as heck? Let me know in the comment section below, and if you like this video, please like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for notifications. And until next time, I've been Duuz-Diz-Din, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.